Hello class and welcome to your week 4 ECS assignment for you. It's the Microsoft Project Resource and Cost Baseline assignment. In this assignment what we're going to do is we're going to take the Microsoft Project file that you created for the work breakdown structure where you laid out all of the subtasks and tasks and then you linked them and you created that predecessor and successor logic from last week. This week what we're going to do is now we're going to add what we refer to as costs associated with either material or people resources to it. And then we're going to create a baseline. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to come in and take a peek at a couple of files that I've created for you. So there's a project example for two different things that I've done just to give you a sense of how you could create these type of, I'll call it cost assignments. So let's take a peek at the first one. This is going to be sample cost by project example. Okay, so this would be if you're looking at how do you create costs by a project piece. So this is by element, not by person. So there's a cost associated with a subtask. And there's a way that you can just go in and you can tag what that cost would be, just add it. So this is one way for you to develop costs. And what I've done is I've laid out 4 different tasks here, 4 series of subtasks. I've laid in the duration. How long would it take? I've laid in a start and finish date for those. And then I've gone ahead and I've put in the dollar amount associated with that. So this is one way to load cost data associated with just a task. And that would be a material cost or a line item cost for something. So if you wanted to lay in one cost for testing a product, you could do it this way. Or you could break it down into the subtasks and say these are the subtasks associated with it. In addition to that, there's a way to load resource data in for people. But this is just the generic how would we put in costs. So this is one of the templates that's out there for you. Just a way to show you how to lay in the data. Now, let's go ahead and pull up the other file I've got for you. So there's a secondary file, and I want to pull that one up. And this is cost based by resources. So you can load in the resource name here, put resources against basically your project file, and then you can go in and you can say, depending on how much money you want, a resource to get paid. So let me just pull the split screen out of the way. And this is one of the things I want you to see is that there's a split screen that you can create where you can load data in down here or you can load data in the top screen. But I like to give a separation here so that I understand what's going on. So you can see I just clicked that task name, all of that information comes up here in addition to what I'll call a standard calendar. So you're going to have to set up a calendar to lay your costs in also. A standard calendar is a 40-hour work week calendar for the resources. So this plumber 1, is working 40 hours a week. And this is how many, from a cost standpoint, I've assigned this particular person to make this amount of money. So it's not, I'll call uncalled to lay in a different, if you want to put in a 6-day work week and have them make standard or overtime pay. There's a series of tasks that you can put in here, but you'll see I've laid in the duration for 5 days. That's what the person's working. You can lay in predecessor or successor logic if you want. We're talking about this particular resource. We're talking about 100% of the units. So I've automatically loaded him to be a full-time person. Advanced gives you other information, and the way you receive that information is just click on the person's name. Subtask 2. So I've gone ahead and laid this one in. It cross-correlates over, as you can see, to the WBS code here. So there's a lot of ways to put cost data in, but here's an example for you of what it looks like if you lay cost data in per person. So what does that cost look like? How do you get those costs? What is the percent complete is a way to lay in earned value, so you can go in and you can tell it that I've got something that's 50% complete. It'll auto-calculate for you the earned value, which is going to be another assignment that you'll have later on in this particular week. But for week 4, one of the first assignment is to go ahead and lay in cost data. Once you've got that cost data, either from a material perspective or from a person's perspective, you'll be able to see that it kind of jumps out at you in the, I'll call it the Gantt chart view. So you've got a Gantt chart view that shows what this looks like as it moves along. Once again, make sure you understand that you've got a split window screen. You can enter data. Some people like entering it down here. Some people like entering it up here. For me, I like having both windows open. I think it gives you the opportunity to really see what that looks like. Now, once you really understand how this works, I want you then to go in to your Microsoft project schedule, and I'm assuming that you're working as a team, so you're going to delegate out to people. Hey, for a plumber, how much should we charge per hour? Hey, to get the testing done, how much should it cost us? For the feasibility study, how would we lay that in? So you're going to have people that you will delegate off to give you information. Rates, how many hours, you know, are there material files? Are there, you know, what type of costs do we have? You want to go ahead and lay all that information into the Microsoft project file. And then there's 3 areas that you get graded on for this particular assignment. This one, if you've loaded all of the project labor costs, that would be all the people costs. You've identified the names of the people that are working on it or created a fictitious name. It could be plumber 1, plumber 2, plumber 3. It could be test agent 1, test agent, you know, buyer 1, buyer 2, buyer 3 if it's a procurement task, things like that. So you load all of the labor costs. Then you have to load all the material costs in. Once you've got both those loaded in for all of the tasks and subtasks, and you've got everything linked, as we request you to do in last week's WBS assignment, then you're going to create a baseline view. So I want you then to go save this file and save it as a baseline. This then creates for you a locked down total for yourself for cost, for CPI, SPI. You can start to pull earned value against it, but you've got to create that baseline. Now you can create multiple baselines, and you can have a positive and a negative baseline, and we'll go into that later on. But you need to get all 3 of those components loaded into here to get full credit for this. Now, the team leaders should be uploading this file once it's done. Don't forget to follow the, I'll call it the strategy we've got for terminology. Well, I want you to save these files as a specific way so that you could go back, and if you wanted to, you can, I'll call it massage them. But remember, you're starting from the working file that you had during week 3, and you're taking that, and now we're making some additional changes to it. Remember, you're loading in a standard calendar. You can load in different types of calendars also. So some people load in, you know, for specific people, they may have a 4-day work week of 10 hours. So remember that there's a variety of different things you can do. You can have support staff that give you LOE or base, you know, a level of effort, and that's just, it's going to be 40 hours at this amount, you know, at $25 an hour equals X amount, and you can lay that in as a cost that way. So there's a variety of ways for you to calculate this. I want to make sure that you really understand that in addition to that, any contract labor that you've got to pull in, make sure you've got the costs associated with those. It really gives you the clear view of what your project looks like. Okay? Now, the only other caution I would have for you is that it may take multiple times to get this correct. Loading the cost data in does become somewhat laborious, so the person that's actually loading it into the Microsoft file, you may want to find out on your team who is the best or most adept at this, but I would like everyone to see how it's loaded, to understand that. So in your team meetings, make sure you show everyone. I want everyone to have the ability, if necessary, to create a Microsoft project file and to load some level of cost data in, if nothing else, at the level of those 2 tutorials that I provided you, those 2 sample files. So make sure Everyone on the team is playing with those and understands how they work. Okay? This sets us up, now that we've got the work breakdown structure loaded in and we've got all the cost data loaded in, this is going to flow into us being able to create earned value, which is one of the other assignments that we've got lined up for you. But you can see that flow, that hierarchical flow of requirements as they come in from the proposal through the contract all the way down the pipeline from a work breakdown structure, which was loaded from the scope statement, down into this. Then we're going to start to pull earned value. But first thing we got to do is we got to get your costs and resources loaded. Listen, have a great week. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Once again, there are a tremendous number of tutorials that we've identified for you in here, and I would tell you, if you go to YouTube and type in Microsoft Project, loading of costs, loading of resources, there's a ton of different videos that are out there from them. And don't forget that Microsoft website where you loaded down your software. Okay? Have a great week and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.